Asylum Wrestling Podcast.
And that's the bottom line.
And we are back live again on the Asylum Wrestling Podcast. We have a great show for you tonight with some added incentives for you to listen. We're here live with the Magic Man. How are you tonight, Magic?
I am good. What is up to everybody? It's a great night. We got some awesome pay-per-view. I know everyone loves that pay-per-view before the Rumble, right? Or not the Rumble, but Mania. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over our contest. We're going to see where people are sitting and standing. And, of course, my jealousy will be on full blast today as Gold and Nick get to talk about what they got to do over the weekend while I was just sitting home alone playing with my plastic friends.
Some great plastic friends you got over there, though. That's for sure. And he's talking about figures, people. And then we have good old Mr. Francis on with us as well, as always.
What is up, guys? David and John and Nate. I hope you guys been doing okay, and all the listeners wherever you're listening from. I hope you're having a fabulous day or night. So glad to be back with you. Like Magic said, we had an eventful weekend. Me and David did this past weekend, so we took a little break and just glad to be back and looking forward to the show. Looking forward to the results that Magic have for the pay-per-view. Interested to see if Gold is still last. We got an amazing interview coming up that I personally am looking forward to, even though me and David was the one that done the interview. I still like to hear it. And so we got the Buff Bagwell interview coming up and just a lot of jam-packed action. So looking forward to the show and glad to be spending it with you guys.
And, of course, we have the producer, Nate, with us as always. Hope you're doing well over there, Nate.
Doing well, and the Buff Bagwell interview is fantastic. Stay tuned for that, people.
Well, all right. So
Definitely.
it definitely was a great interview. Nick and myself, of course, Magic was saying he's jealous, but we're jealous of Magic. He got to cuddle with some green cards while we were with Buff. But so we had we were able to do the Toys and Plastics show last Saturday. Drove about 5 hours up to West Virginia. Nice little road trip. Nick and I had a pretty good time driving up and back and stuff like that. I tried to get out of driving back, and of course Nick hit me with the "I don't like driving other people's cars" excuse.
And it worked. The excuse worked.
Like, dude drives like a dually fucking pickup truck that goes, "Oh man, I don't want to drive your little teeny ass car." Like, really, dude? Fucking really. But nonetheless, so we got to partner with the Nerd Closet, which is a fellow sister group, and I say that proudly. Ran by Rocky Turner and Ferb and a bunch of other really cool guys. We got to hang out with Josh Blevins and Chevy Coates as well. Side note, we got to barely get some sleep the first night because, and I say this again, and I do apologize, Chevy, but it's the truth. You sound like a roto-rooter.
I can agree to that. So David's not lying.
He passed out about 10 minutes after Buff left our room. Told us a couple really cool stories, and Chevy was out like a lamp as we all laid there listening. It was pretty rough, but I'm not going to take up all the thunder. I'll let Nick kind of go through I'll let Nick go through kind of what we did. I'll just kind of premise what we did, and I'll let you kind of tell them what we did Saturday night. Saturday during the day, we kind of got to hang out with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Buff a bit. It was a really, really busy room and atmosphere. Lots of people dressed up. Lots of really cool tables. Nick and I found another wrestling table that had some really good prices. Spent some of the money we didn't make yet. And pretty crazy. I was able to grab a Jimmy Hart OSFTM for $10. Nick got a really cool Legends Vader for $30. I believe it was. Was it $30? I think it was.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yep.
You can't beat that for a freaking Legends Vader Elite $30. We almost
No, you
ended up.
definitely can't.
We had to kind of pull ourselves away because we're like, shit, we got our own stuff we need to sell. But
And the funny part about that is, like, as we're setting up, we see, we're like, oh my God, here's this other wrestling table. We thought we was going to be the only one here. So what does me and David do? We go over there, and like David was saying, we start spending money that we haven't even made yet. So instead of, I guess getting jealous and making it a competition, we just joined in and started getting to know the guy and buying stuff from him, and he eventually bought some stuff from us. So definitely that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, he bought your Macho Man Slim Jim display. He was staring at that for 2 days.
He was the whole time. I thought he was looking at our prices on everything. He was really just looking at the Macho Slim Jim holder.
Hey
And
guys,
I
let me.
I don't have Tourette's, by the way. That was I'm trying to hold a cough in.
Hey, so how was his prices? Was he fair?
Oh, very cheap. It was ridiculously cheap, and they went even cheaper day too. Magic, I know you're sitting over there like, what the hell? Y'all didn't send me a goddamn photo.
Yep,
The guy Magic, we added him to the group. He's actually a member now, and I apologize if he listens to this because I can't remember his name, but I'll find him for you. He's still, the day that we left, he had a ton of great stuff, and like David said, his prices were probably about as good as it gets, to on some of the items.
Yeah, he had a Legends Bushwhackers for $40. He had.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you're like, you bitches. We weren't thinking Magic. I'm 1,000% honest. We had to kind of get back and set our shit up, and those Bushwhackers went within 5 minutes, so those went quick. I saw a guy walking around with them because Nick was going to go back and grab the Bushwhackers too, but someone came over and grabbed them real fast, and he's like, "Damn it, should have got him." But
yeah.
He had like the OSFTM Nash and Hall, the vibrating ones for $20.
Oh wow!
It was he had some good price. He had some really good prices. I mean, it was definitely reasonable, and he had like Toy Biz, all types of stuff. He didn't have any Hasbros though, because we would have grabbed those. Magic, come on.
Oh yeah.
We would have jumped all over those if he had Hasbro, for sure. Those wouldn't have been, we'll go back and get those later. Those would have been, you better get those right now. We would have had a basket, But nonetheless, it was crazy. Like when Hacksaw came in, he goes, "Oh," and everyone went, "Oh," when he walked in. It was pretty cool. His wife walked over, set him up, was like, he needs a stool just in case. And he's like, no, he's a manly man still, right? So he's like, no, honey, I'll stand. It was pretty surreal. And then watching that line form, it wrapped all the way around the convention center, no lie. And it went on for 3 straight hours. And Rocky had really went all out, put up a really nice American flag background, and had an iPad set up for pictures, and basically it was just an amazing atmosphere. I went and walked up and down the lines, making sure people had their 8x10s, their cards. Nick ran our table, which was pretty awesome. We kind of traded off back and forth there. It was just an amazing event. And then day 2 was a lot slower, but Buff was there. We put up his NWO banner over top of the flag, so kind of a cool thing. But Nick, I'll pass it over to you so you can kind of tell him what we did on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was Saturday was definitely fun. I'll start by saying this was actually the first time, I know for me personally, and I think for David as well, that we actually got to meet Josh and Chevy and Rocky. And me and Josh was talking about it the other day through PM that we acted as if we'd known each other our whole lives. They were genuine good dudes, each and every one of them. So they made the trip definitely fun, hanging out with those guys. So definitely appreciate having them, even though we did have to listen to Chevy snoring, but we made it through.
I'm sure he'll come back to you and talk things about you as well. But not to interrupt you real fast, I just also want to And then I got Buff hooked on au jus sauce. And do you know what au jus
He
sauce
did.
is, Magic?
Oh, let me tell you, as being a true fat man, I know about the sauce.
Do you know what au jus sauce is, Nate?
Yeah, that's the brown sauce.
And so Buff like squirts his ketchup all over the plate, right? Like a rack of it. And I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, and of course Chevy goes, what was it, Blevins? One of them went, ew, you dip your steak in ketchup? And he's like, oh, always. And I'm like, Buff, you need to get some au jus sauce, bro. And he's like, what is au jus? I was like, au jus sauce? He's like, a Jill. I'm like, no, au jus sauce, Buff. And so I went to the waitress and I said, bring him 2 au jus sauces. He needs it, right? And he cuts his little piece of steak. And I'm like, Buff, because he started dipping it in the ketchup. And I'm like, Buff, try the au jus sauce, bro. Come on. And he dipped that in that au jus sauce and ate it. And he's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, that's
like,
no joke. It was on after that.
So we went to steak twice over the weekend. We went Friday night. And then Saturday night, he wanted steak again. And he's like, what's that stuff you call it? What did you call it again? I'm like, au jus sauce. And then so the waitress brings it over. And he's like, you see, I didn't even touch my ketchup. So I got him hooked on au jus sauce. It looked like he was having an orgasm in his mouth. He's like, oh, this is so good. Anyways,
that is true.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
But like I was saying, I mean, those guys, Josh, Chevy, Rocky, great guys to hang out with. Like I said, it was like we had pretty much hung out with them plenty of times before, even though it was the first time we'd met them. So thank them for joining us and making it a fun weekend as well. But Hacksaw was so down to earth. He was great. He done a couple promo videos for us, and he even done some personal videos for family members and pictures, and signed anything that we wanted him to sign, obviously. And he was a down to earth dude. I really enjoyed chatting with him and listening to some of the stories he had. And but Buff was a different story. I mean, Buff is sort of the same, but a lot different. Buff was amazing to hang out with. We got to spend a little bit more time with Buff. We spent Friday night. He come back to our room, and Saturday night, we stayed together in a hotel. And but what he'd done was, like, during the day Saturday, I don't know how he got hooked up with it, but they had a wrestling show. What is about an hour and a half away from Parkersburg. What was it, David? ASW, is that what the company's called, I believe, or AZW or something?
ASW.
Yeah. ASW was having a wrestling show that Saturday night, and somehow Buff got hooked up to make a surprise special appearance to come out, cut a promo in front of the crowd, and sign, take pictures, sign autographs, and this and that. So basically, he comes up to us and is like, you guys are coming with me. And we're like, okay, we'd love to, come watch and this and that. He says, no, you're coming to the ring with me. So I'm like, well, me and David are looking at one another like, do we go? Or what are we going to do? I'm like, we can't pass up on the opportunity to go. So obviously, we had a ball going back into the locker room with those guys. And they treated us just like, was one of them. I mean, they didn't kick us out or anything. We was worried it was going to be sticking out like a sore thumb, although we may have. They didn't act like it. But, we was a little nervous.
With a lot of respect, and I can assure you, I think the biggest thing going through my head is I hadn't climbed in some ropes in over a year, a physical ring. And I'm like thinking, okay, all right, try not to fall down the ramp and try not to trip going into the ring. And I had on these, I didn't have on tennis shoes or wrestling shoes. I had on these really nice dress shoes. I kind of like dress like a Canadian, where they do the half casual dress. So I always have on dress shoes. And my first thought was, just try not to fall when you're getting in the ring, Dave. Just try.
that was mine too, because they had like an upper balcony, I guess you could call it, and we kind of went up there for the last couple matches before we knew that we were set to go out. And we're looking, and of course these guys, they've probably been doing it for God knows how long, so they make it look just easy, sliding up under the ropes and going through the middle. And of course I'm putting on my game face, acting like I'm not nervous, but I'm with David. I'm like, oh my God, I just know I'm gonna fall in front of all these people. It's over 500 to 600 people right here, and it'll be on YouTube and everything. And I'm just worried to death, but it all went good. Like I said, I'm speaking for myself, and I think David, said the same thing. We was a little nervous going out there, but honestly, like once that NWO music hit for Buff to come out, I mean, the crowd, he got a humongous pop, believe it or not. That crowd went crazy. We kind of just went in there. The crowd was giving us, the Too Sweet to us and coming up to us kind of like we was, I guess with Buff. We done everything but do autographs.
We were his Vincent. We were his Vincent.
But it was fun, man. We got to go down there, and actually we got a fellow member that noticed us out in the crowd. Chad Sneed's his name. I'm standing next to the ring because kind of what we had to do was we had Chevy and Josh bringing the fans into the ring. Me and David was kind of taking them out, and then so I get this dude who comes up to me, pats me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, you're Nick Francis from the Asylum." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, what's up?" And it ended up being, one of our members, like I said, Chad. So it was just kind of neat to have, be that far, at a wrestling show and somebody still notice you
Funny
from the
story.
Facebook
There was
group.
this.
That was pretty cool.
When me and Nick were like letting people out of the ring, a fan was talking to Nick, and I was holding the rope out open, and this father was like slowly climbing out of the ring, and like his daughter is like 3, maybe 2 or 3 years old, and she's ready to like plancha dive off the turnbuckle. Like it was crazy. Like, and I'm like, Nick, I'm screaming because this girl's ready to dive off the ring, and the father's like, so Nick runs over and like picks her up and takes her off the apron, right? And so the father's like, oh, she does that all the time at home. I'm like, yeah, but is there pavement on the, do you have a little ring in the house? Like, it was definitely, it was funny, but it was scary at the same time because I know she would have gotten hurt had she jumped off that ring.
Wow.
And the father's just like all on about it. And I'm like, oh my God. So we told Buff that backstage, and he's like, oh, that happens all the time. He's like, there was a promotion we had to stop doing pictures in the ring because people would get hurt leaving the ring and stuff. And there were a lot of people like that could barely get through the ropes. And you forget how much give sometimes these ropes don't have. I mean, these ropes are pretty decent considering it was an indie ring, but some of these ropes are all different, and these ropes were pretty tight and had pretty good resistance. But some of these ropes, they're not as tight; they're more loosey goosey. So
like a boxing ring.
Yeah, it's like you've been in different rings, Magic, so you know about how these ropes can be, or how important it is for them to have some give, but not too much give. So these particular ropes didn't have a whole lot of snapback. So they were very difficult to hold open for extended periods of time. So I'm trying to get people in and out of the ring and stuff, but this little girl is like, screw this, I'm diving off the side of the ring. Oh my God. And I'm like, Nick, and Nick's talking to a fan, and he runs over and grabs the girl off the apron. I'm like, oh, that was so close. Because she was ready to go.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, but it was just crazy how, like I said, the wrestlers welcomed us there. The fans was beyond welcoming. I mean, like I said, we had fans literally coming up to us kind of like we were stars. Obviously, we're not, but taking pictures, giving the Too Sweet thing, and all that. And so we done all that. Had a great night. Ended up going out for some more steak. Got some au jus sauce, like David said. Buff was hooked on that, so he had to go get him another steak that weekend. It was definitely a great experience. We got to meet some more people that was on the Facebook group. I think Shane Little, I believe is his name, come and met us while I was at the table, and a couple other guys. So sorry if I'm not rattling off your names, but we also got to meet some new members that's on the Facebook group now. It was just it was overwhelming at first, because it was actually the first time that I'd ever set up a table. I don't know if you had before or not, David, but as far as the Asylum, it was the first time that we had set up a table. So having that, like David said, you had a line for a solid 3 hours to go see Hacksaw, and the line just so happened to be right in front of our table. So each and every person that went up there, you had to kind of associate with. So it was overwhelming at first, but very, very fun. Really, really enjoyed it. Buff was amazing to hang out with. We're now actually talking like on a pretty much like I ain't gonna say a daily basis, but me and David ended up getting his phone number, and Chevy did as well. And so we're constantly texting now. I think Chevy messaged me the other night and said Buff called him at like midnight. So he's just a down to earth dude, man. I really enjoyed hanging with him and talking with him. And you'll see in the interview that we got coming up that. He doesn't act no different just because of his, wrestling history or anything like that. So real fun times. I definitely enjoyed it. And I know, David, we can't really announce it, but we're working on a second show, if I'm not mistaken, correct? We're working on it.
Two more shows, and we're hoping to continue to expand on that and get other people involved like Magic, so he's not sitting at home with his plastic figure. So
yeah, guys, let me tell you, it was like pure torture seeing all your stories and everything, but I wanted to ask y'all about something, if you don't mind, if I could step in. So after you told us how Buff tricked y'all into giving him a ride out to the wrestling show, and then once there, how come you didn't bring up the famous picture?
Oh
gosh.
Yeah, all right, so we're getting out of the ring because the guys because Buff took about 20 minutes, right, give or take, and that's a long time to have an intermission for a wrestling show. So the head guy was like, let's get Buff to the side, and then people want their picture signed, and then Buff's like $10 more, right? So he's gonna do the signatures too. So not a bad deal. $20 for a picture and signature is a pretty good deal, right? So Nick and I are over there. We're just standing there, and I'm like, "Hey, Nick, let's take our shirts off and take a picture with Buff." And I go over to Buff, and I'm like, "Hey, man, we want to take a shirtless picture with you." And at first, he thought it was just, they're just going to take a picture. No, he didn't know what I meant. So,
hey, did he have his shirt off already at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
He was sweating, so he was dripping.
So it wasn't like just creepy. We want your shirt off.
Oh no, and it was more creepy how pressed Blevins was to hold his shirt. But anyway, he was so proud of himself. He's like, I got Buff's shirt. But so we go over, and you could hear Nick kind of in the background. I can't believe you fucking talked me into this. So we take our shirts off. I toss them behind us, and then we flex and we take a photo with Buff. And Buff was like, after we took the photo, he's like, I love you guys. That took a lot of fucking guts. I'm like, yeah, there was 2 guts in this photo.
I think he realized how good we made him look. So after he got to looking at the picture, he realized how good we made him look. So that's why he was so proud of it.
He's like, oh yeah, y'all made me look really buff.
So at this show, did he work any, or he just on the mic? What was it?
Just the mic, and he did a shout out to Scott Steiner because unfortunately he was in the hospital.
That was right after the heart incident.
Yeah, so Buff didn't get a lot of sleep that night either. He was up all night because he was worried about Scott. So
tell us. I know you didn't see him work, but obviously he had his shirt off. Whatever. We also know he's 50 years old now. What's Buff like? Is he?
He's still ripped. He's still pretty fucking ripped.
He's still got it, no doubt.
He still got
in my opinion.
So
yeah,
is he like, he looks really good for a 50-year-old, or he looks good for any wrestler who was in the ring?
He looks really good for a 50-year-old, and I mean, I can't talk shit. He's in better shape than I am, but at the same token, you can kind of tell he's covered masking some things, like he colors his hair and his beard and stuff, because I'm sure he'll have to do that, right? So, but and Taker does it too. He colors his beard, but and his hair. So I mean,
right. I mean, I'm almost 15 years younger, and I've got grays everywhere too, so I get it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say both. I think he's had all those surgeries, but he's healed from a lot of them. So he told us he could probably put on some matches again.
Yeah, I think you'll be interested in Magic. I don't know if you've listened to our interview at his response to pretty much if he would be interested in wrestling again. We asked him that question, kind of. So you'll be interested in his response on that.
So I mean, I don't know. Did he tell y'all when? Because I know, like, at least like last year, he was still working some. Mm-hmm. Did he tell you when his last match was or anything?
I think he hasn't wrestled in a few years, to be honest with you. We didn't ask that question, but when you go back and look at some of his indie matches, they're from like 2016, 2017. I think he's had that hip surgery like a year or two ago. Yeah. So when we were climbing up the stair, they had this chair to go up that we had to climb up to get onto their thing, because I guess they don't have a ramp. And we all had a difficult time getting up, right? But you could tell he's still kind of favoring that hip a little bit. But I think he could put on a good match. And he was strutting around the ring pretty good. He's in great shape for a wrestler that's been through what he's been through, especially breaking his neck.
Okay, so this is just a personal wonder of mine. Did he seem to all of a sudden move a lot better once he hit the ring?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, y'all know a little about me, and I've been able to be around some of these guys who are, 50 plus with 20 to 30 years worth. And some of these guys, and not Buff, obviously, from what y'all are saying, but some of these guys, when you see them and meet them, you're like, oh my God, this is, how can this guy get up the stairs to the ring, little less work a match? But something happens. They hit that ring and the bell rings, and all of a sudden they're moving like they're 25 years old again. I mean, it's crazy to see that in person.
Yeah, just go back to 2012 when you're watching Hacksaw work on SmackDown still, and it's like, what in the hell? And the dude was moving around just fine,
Yeah.
And he was what? In 2012, he was what?
Heck, he
was 56, 55.
Yeah.
He's 63 now, and of course he doesn't work anymore. He told us that. Hacksaw told us I don't do indie matches much anymore. I know he did one 2 years ago. And the only reason I know that is because there was a guy that was in the line that had a picture of him and Hacksaw in the ring, and he had Hacksaw in a headlock. And he said, I'm going to get that signed. I'm like, that's cool.
Did y'all by any chance listen to Hacksaw? It was pretty recent when he was on the Jericho podcast.
No, I need to catch up on that.
I did.
It's pretty good listen, but he's talking about when he went back to wrestling there at the that late run you're talking about, all that, and he's talking about how the modern guys are like, okay, what do you do? And his answer was like, punch and kick. They're like, no, like what moves? And he was like, punch and kick.
Oh, I loved his thing with Eugene, and then Eugene snapped and went crazy and beat him up.
Another thing that I think he's funny, and then I'll get off the Hacksaw on there, but he's talking about how he's friends with some of the NFL players, and he said like they win the Super Bowl and they're the world champion, and he's like, oh yeah, where all in the world did you go to win that title?
Oh shit. No, we were talking to Hacksaw about belts. That's why when he went live to do our shout out, he's like, I don't get close to belts, really, and it's like, because I was telling him, you should have been the champion at least once, right?
Right.
I said you should have been given a world title shot, especially how hot you were after the Rumble when you won the first Rumble. And he's like, that was unexpected. I'm like, well, that's good. He's like, yeah, they told me right before I went out I was winning. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
Well, if y'all know the Hacksaw story, that guy was like the hottest baby face in the world, and he thinks he killed everything by getting arrested that time.
yeah, with the what was it with marijuana?
Yeah, but that wasn't the big deal. It was because he was with the Sheik,
Yeah,
and it was like still very much kayfabe back then and all that. So Vince fired him because not for getting arrested, but because he was with the Sheik.
yeah. And and then when I told him, I also then said, well, I guess you really didn't need a belt. Like Ted DiBiase didn't need a belt. He kind of carried it without. He's like, yeah. And he's like, I was also the TV champion because I found it in the dumpster. I'm like, I know, we know that. He's like, and his wife came over because Nick and I had a TV belt, and she's like, is that the same belt you found in the trash? We're like, we wish. No, it's a replica, but we wish that was the real belt. Like his wife knew the belt immediately. That all she said. It wasn't, hey, that's the TV belt. It was, oh, that's the belt you found in the trash. One Scott Hall threw away. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the one. But it was surreal going out to that ring, and then the way the fans were like just giving us the 2 sweets and stuff, and I mean, Buff's like, go up to an audience member and order them to give you a chair. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And so I went over to this old frail man. I picked the oldest man I could find and was like, hand me that chair. and then he didn't end up handing it to me. He just slid to the side and I grabbed it. But anyway, still, it was pretty cool. And
took the man's wheelchair right out from under.
I told Buff, I was like, not a whole lot of wrestlers would have done that for us, to be honest. Wanting to bring us to the ring and stuff. And he's like, to be honest, this was one of the best times I've ever had, and you guys are really freaking cool. And last cool Buff story before we move on. We're heading to the airport, and Buff's like, I gotta pee. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like, Nick, put a gas station in the GPS because we're about 4 miles away from the airport. And he's got an hour and a half where he has to leave. Buff is rushing because he thinks we don't have a whole lot of time. So he's like, run that yellow line. I'm Buff. I'll give him an 8x10. Run it. I'm like, no, man, no. So he's like, well, maybe not. Maybe that won't get us out of shit anymore. I was like, I don't think it will, but. So
especially when it's a 21-year-old cop, and he's like, "Who's Buff Bagwell?"
I'm gonna interrupt David for a second. The whole reason we're even in a hurry is because we're at the show and Buff's like, "Yeah, we got like an hour to go or whatever," and the crowd's kind of thinning out, so we might get out of here early. And he looks at his watch and he's like, "It ain't but 3:15," and the show ended at like 4:30, something like that. And Rocky looks at him. He's like, "What time did you say it was?" He's like, "It's about 3:15." Rocky's like, "No, it's actually after 4." Buff forgot to set his watch ahead because this past weekend, we sprung forward, and so like once he found out that he had pretty much lost an hour, he was in a panic right there. So we had to just kind of throw everything in the vehicle, rush out of there, and so that's why Dave was kind of rushing, running red lights and stuff like that.
And it's like he's like, all right, we're really early. I gotta pee. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, fine. So I'm thinking we're heading to a gas station, and he's like, no, pull over here. We'll go. I'm like, all right. And lo and fucking behold, it's the United States Post Office. I pull into the parking lot, and I'm like, oh my god! I just realized we're in a post office parking lot. Buff sits, and he's like, let me teach y'all something. He sits on the hood. Me and Nick are like, what is he doing? And it looks like he's just chilling on the hood. Literally just chilling. And he's pissing. And so he finishes peeing, zips up, starts walking over to the car, and this post office guy comes over and goes, hey, can I help you guys with anything? And Buff's like, no, we're good. I was just taking a drink, getting some drink. And he gets in the car and I was like, drive. I back the fuck out. I haul out of the United States Post Office parking lot. And I'm like, Oh, we got a wrestling story, you know.
I will say, and I will say this, and Buff, I apologize because I know he's actually going to listen to this. He wants the link once we're done, so hopefully he doesn't mind his fans knowing. But don't ever go into a weekend with Buff thinking you're going to outdrink Buff Bagwell. It's not going to happen. I can promise you that. I mean, that's his breakfast as well, and I don't think he's ashamed of it. He's not no real bad alcoholic or anything like that. But he likes his morning beverages and evening beverages and night beverages. So don't go on a weekend with Buff and hang out with him thinking you're going to outdrink him, because it's not going to happen.
Oh, I'm a bad influence too, because remember we went to the gas station and he's like, "Hey, can you?" Because it was late. He's like, "Can y'all grab me a vodka or whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh, we can't get hard liquor. It's almost midnight." So I went in and I got the screwdriver, the Smirnoff orange and vodka for him. He comes back the next morning. He's like, "Man, that thing was fucking delicious." I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "You like that, huh?" He's like, "Yeah." And like, what happened is I took a couple drinks and I'm like, "Oh, this is nothing." And then 5 seconds later, I'm feeling woozy. I'm like, "Fuck, this pack's a punch." Like,
the funny part was because Chevy was giving David hell because it was a Smirnoff. He's like, "Oh, that's a whiskey drink," and expecting Buff to say the same thing. And Buff comes out like, "Oh man, it was the best I've ever drunk. Oh man, I need another one," So that was pretty funny. But David did hook him up with the Smirnoff. I think it was the vodka.
Yeah, Smirnoff screwdriver. And then when I went outside, because I got myself a 6-pack of Smirnoff, I was like, "You believe this? This dude told me this is a pussy drink." And Buff's like, "Oh, fuck no. Smirnoffs are fucking delicious." And I'm like, "See, Chevy? Even Buff likes some Smirnoff." But
Chevy kind of played the role as Buff's bodyguard for the weekend, and he was very proud of that. I think him and Buff kind of got real close. So I know Chevy had a real enjoyable weekend just talking to him, here recently. So it was a fun time all around for everybody. Like I said, in my opinion, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and Josh, speaking of your buddy Blevins, he is walking around going, "Awesome, more Buff's bitches." And he's like, "I'm bitch one," because he was carrying Buff's shirt. And we got outside, and Buff is like, did someone get my shirt? And Blevins is like, "Yup, it's right here." And he's like, "You're a good dude, bro. That's a $300 shirt." And so Blevins
we're walking.
Proud of himself.
And I got a video of it, but as we're walking into the locker room, behind Buff, he's like, "Don't be surprised if you got to sign autographs." And he said, "If anybody walks up to you to sign autographs, just sign it as Buff's bitch." And that's when Josh took off with bitch one, bitch two. And so
yeah, Buff
that was pretty funny.
I
actually
surprised how many people come up and go, "I want your autograph." And you're like, "Really? Why? I'm nobody." "You're with Buff. I want your autograph too."
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And I got a video of him. Yeah, I got a video of him saying that. I'll send it to you in a little bit, but pretty fun times, man.
And by the way, I was molested by ODB, and I live to tell about it. So.
I think David's more proud of that than anything that happened this weekend. He's
hell
told everybody
yeah.
that.
Did you see her smile when she wrote me? She was so happy to do it too. She's like, boom. And then when Buff was like, "Hey," she was like, "Hey, you want to take some photos with the guys?" And she's like, "Line them up just like a normal Saturday night."
Yep.
So it was all. And then she was like, "It looks like we're taking photos in a laundromat." The washer machine and the sink. And then like the surprising part is like the way the little locker room was set up. Like half the stalls were showers and half were bathrooms. And like Chevy and them were so surprised that people were peeing in the stalls. And I'm like, this is a normal locker room, bro. You think these locker rooms are extravagant? This is normal. No, the guys and gals backstage were fucking cool. We kept like going, "Hey, push us out the way if we're in your way." And they're like, "No, you're fine. You're not in the way." And we talked to a couple of the wrestlers. They were fucking cool. And we had conversations. And
a couple of them actually joined the Facebook group. One of them, what I found was pretty funny, and not to keep on prolonging the stories, is one of the wrestlers. The first us being figure collectors, we're always asking, you know, if you're a collector and whatnot. And Arn Anderson happened to be there that night, so this dude goes digging into his duffel bag, and lo and behold, he pulls out a Galoob Arn Anderson. He's like, hell yeah, I had to bring it with Arn being here. So the guys are real fun to talk with, and you know, made it that much more enjoyable.
Correction.
In my opinion.
He said he always carries that Arn Anderson because his finisher is
Yep,
Spine Buster.
Yep.
And he's like,
Yep,
you
you're
know?
exactly right.
And
I
then,
forget.
And then Blevins was like, is that the one with the bald spot? And he turned it around and was like, fucking A, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. Hopefully next time we can have like some more Asylum admins involved, Magic and Jeff and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys can join us for the next couple ones we do, and how maybe we'll work our way out to Texas.
Yeah, we're brewing something up right now. We can't really give any details yet with everything going on, but we're working something up.
Well, all right, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick little break, and then when we get back, we're going to go over how great I'm doing on these pay-per-views, and we'll go over a little bit of our thoughts on the most recent WWE Network pay-per-view.
If you're not in the Asylum, you need to head there for two reasons. Because I'm buff, and because you got a chance to win this belt if you're the champ every single month. I'm buff, I'm the stuff, and you head to the Asylum and check it out for yourself.
And we are back. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pass the show over to the Magic Man himself so he can say how wonderful I'm doing in our pay-per-view contest. And then we're going to go over our thoughts on the pay-per-view briefly.
Thank you. Hey, before we get into the pay-per-view, just real quick, a couple little updates we've gotten these last couple days. Now, it's pretty much out there on the Elite 77 who it's going to be. We did have a couple updates. That's just kind of cool. Nothing like earth-shattering, but if you're someone like us on this pod, this is cool news to us. So we have confirmed that Rick Rude's robe will be soft goods, meaning it will be like cloth. Along with that, we've also confirmed that the classy Freddie Blassie, his coat will be soft goods too. I believe AJ is plastic, and I believe all of Ronda's plastic. I kind of wish they would just do soft goods for about everything. I always think that's a cool touch. I think it's really awesome. Still pretty pumped about the Rude just because first it's Rude, but second it's the whole Ultimate Warrior pants. Were y'all able to see the soft goods update or anything like that?
Yeah, I can't wait. That Rude looks amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Is this the Magic? You know better than I do. I will say, is this because I've seen bits and pieces of the AJ Styles with the OC attire? Is he coming out in this series, or is it the 77?
No, this is the OC one. So he'll have it's like that the skull and like the red lettering, and he's all black and red with white.
I kind of like that when I seen it. I'm not. I know David Gold goes out looking for AJ Styles every day, but and never buys them. But this is going to be one that I'll probably buy when it comes to the AJ Styles figures. I kind of like that one a lot. Just glancing at it.
Yeah, my take on the AJ, I think the designs and everything is cool because it's going back to the OC and it's got like the Japanese writing and all that. The only thing I don't like is I always think the plastic shirt molds I don't think they look that great on figures just because they're like too big for them and stuff, But I think the design is cool.
Yeah.
All right, so
and obviously, I was gonna say obviously the Rick Rude and the Freddie Blassie, I'm definitely getting those without a doubt.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into the Elimination Chamber. And for all our listeners, normally on pay-per-views, we would go into some detail on what we thought of matches, whatever. Because we've got that awesome Buff Bagwell interview coming up. We're going to try to go through this pretty quick so we can get you to that interview quicker. We are going to go over our results in the famous pay-per-view pick'em, which, remember, there is only a loser, one loser, and the winners don't matter as long as you're not the loser. And look soon. We promised before WrestleMania it's going to come. We're going to find out what that loser has to do. We're still not quite sure because we're trying to confirm a couple things right now. That's all I can say about it because I can't let the cat out of the bag. And especially if something falls through, I don't want anyone to think something's going to happen that might not. So we're still waiting on that. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into Elimination Chamber. We'll have a couple spots we want to talk about. The rest of it, we're probably just going to go over pretty quick. All right, guys. So we had the pre-show kicked off with the Viking Raiders versus Ryder and Hawkins. Of course, we all picked the Viking Raiders. I don't think anyone in the world thought Hawkins and Ryder were going to win. Maybe one certain Facebook group was hoping, but I think we all knew what was going to happen here.
Yeah.
It was a pre-show. Nothing super duper stood out or anything. It's kind of hard, especially too when there's no storyline that goes with it, but not bad. And I will say Hawkins and Ryder, for where they are on the card, whatever, they're pretty well liked and loved, especially because of the Fig community. So it was cool just to see them get a match on there, but nothing other to it than that. Then we jumped into one I do want to talk about, was Daniel Bryan versus Drew Gulak. Before I go on, what was y'all's guys thinking on this?
I was looking forward to your opinion because unfortunately me and David was on the road watching it, but so we was glancing at it, but the little bit that I seen, I thought it looked like a great match in my opinion. David, you probably seen a little bit more than I did.
Watch it.
Yeah,
when I got home, I watched it, and I've amazing match. I feel Drew and Bryan brought it. It was very physical. I picked Drew to win, but because I had assumed that Bryan had no reason to win, he didn't need the push, he didn't need the win. I thought this would be a big win for Gulak and move him up the ranks, and I've always liked him. So, but it was a great match overall. I think it was one of the best matches on the entire card.
So when I watch this, if you are the type of fan who likes a very technical match, this is the match for you. I loved it. Now, I like all different types of matches. I'm one of those, not many matches I don't like style-wise, but I thought this match was amazing. The only thing that I didn't like, and probably because it's Daniel Bryan, was some of the bumps he was taking scared the shit out of me. Especially the ones landing high or on his head, and I hope those were intended to be that way. And maybe it's probably just because it's Daniel Bryan and his injury past, but some of them made me shudder. But as far as the match goes, amazing match, technical wise and match wise. Okay. And then we got in, what'd y'all think? And Gold picked Gulak. Me and Nick both picked Daniel Bryan. Then we got into Andrade versus Humberto for the U.S. title. Were y'all able to see this one?
I watched the whole card when I got home because Nick and I were on the road when we watched it. It was good, but I knew Andrade was going to win. They weren't going to take the belt off of him, so.
Yeah. I unfortunately didn't watch it when we got back, but I did glance at it. Like I said, was on the road, but it was kind of one of those matches that I'm not going to say I knew Andrade was going to win, but of course I picked Andrade, and it was kind of predictable to me. Not saying the match was horrible, but it was just kind of predictable.
Yeah, so all three of us picked Andrade here, and I thought it was a really good match. I think it might be both of these guys on some of their better matches, and maybe I don't know them on a personal level or anything about them, but probably they could communicate well. because I know both of them are Spanish first speakers. So as far as that, it was very smooth and all that type. So I did like that. All right, guys, what did y'all think of the SmackDown Tag Title Elimination Chamber?
I thought it was amazing in my opinion. But David, you go ahead first because you watched it a little bit more than I did.
The spots in that match were extremely good. Really good freaking match. I knew Morrison and Miz and Ziggler and would bring it, and I thought it was just perfectly executed, in my humble opinion. I really enjoyed the match, and I think Morrison and Miz should have a long reign, and I think this is going to help bring the tag division back to prominence if they work on it correctly. So I enjoyed it.
Agree with
totally
both of y'all there. I did think the heavy machinery where Otis goes through the pod and then Tucky's there. Otis, get up! Otis, get up! I kind of thought that was funny, but great match. One thing I think they were able to do pretty strong in this match was, all these guys are pretty well known, and then they threw the Lucha House Party in there, and I think the Lucha House, for not being maybe up on the same card level as the rest of them, I thought they did pretty well, especially to add a little spice to it. Especially the off the top spot, that was pretty cool.
I will say, and I can't remember Magic how many points or whatever that I put on this match, but this was kind of one of those matches that I could have seen going either way. I could have seen New Day winning it. I could have seen Heavy Machinery winning it. I think I picked Morrison and Miz, but this was one that I probably was one that I wasn't too confident in. If in my opinion, I think it could have went either way.
Yeah, we all picked Miz and Morrison. Gold had it pretty high in confidence points. Me and Nick were both a little low, but we all got it. All right, and then we went on to Aleister Black versus AJ Styles. Decent match. I don't think we have to spend a lot on the match itself, but of course we saw the Undertaker's music hit.
We were in the car and Nick heard me mark out.
I was getting ready to say I've never heard David mark out, but I think he echoed in the car when the lights went out and the Undertaker started coming out. He just got to yelling, fist pumping, got me all pumped up for the Undertaker. I kind of want to go watch their WrestleMania match.
I was because AJ was going to win that match because Nick's like, oh boy, they're beating him down. It's all of them. They're beating him up. And I was like, no, Taker's going to save him. And I'm going to guess this match right. And it's like, dong. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Especially with the no DQ. So it's like, oh yeah. But little did we know the no DQ was going to end up biting AJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's see, that one, I believe we all picked Black, yeah. All right, then we got to the Raw Tag Title match. We had the Street Profits in the rematch versus Murphy and Seth. Me and Gold, I believe, picked the correct teams here. Street Profits, and Nick went with Rollins and Murphy. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, this was one that I think if I would have sat down and actually, took the time to pick, I probably would have went different. But I just don't know the direction they're going with Rollins and Murphy. That's why I kind of, thought on the fly that I thought they was probably going to win the titles back, and I still don't know the direction they're going with those two guys. But it was a good match nonetheless. But yeah, I got it wrong. So David actually beat me in that match.
Of course, Spot has to go to the box of popcorn that Kevin Owens was holding during that one. This one, I think all three of us picked the wrong person. Braun Strowman versus Cesaro, Shinsuke, and Sami Zayn.
Why are they doing that to Braun? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Ugh. What is the direction here?
Every time they do this to Braun, I think it's because they need to clear him off because they want to put him in some title weight pictures, or I'm sorry, some heavyweight pictures, or for the main title. But then they never do. So I don't know. Like,
so yeah, I'm as a tag champ with a little boy. Yeah, you know, you put the IC belt on him for like a month, and then you have him lose it in a handicap match to Sami Zayn.
Yeah,
you know,
and in my opinion, the match wasn't even that good.
It's just annoying. Like, I don't understand what their thought process is here, but sometimes you never know. So,
all right, and then let's get to the main event. All of us picked the correct winner. I thought it was pretty obvious before it started, but we had the Women's Elimination Chamber. I am interested in seeing y'all's take on this match, and then I'll give mine. What'd y'all think?
The only good part about that entire match was seeing Liv Morgan's butt cheeks on the cage. That's it.
It's bad. Go
I know
ahead.
Magic, look, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know Magic's probably going to say one of the best matches ever. And why would he say that? Because they made her look like a beast like they did Brock Lesnar at the Rumble. So it makes her look super dominant. I get why they did it. I understand. I don't hate the end result, but I felt like some more resistance should have been put up. But other than that, it served its purpose. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I think it was pretty obvious as well. And seeing how they're building her up, I think she's gonna, which I know we're far, far away from WrestleMania, but I think she's gonna be the perfect opponent to probably beat Becky, in my opinion. So I kind of liked what they done. Sorry, David, but I kind of liked how they made her look like, pretty much like a beast.
I didn't dislike it. I just wanted more resistance. I thought she could have been made look like a beast, and like at least someone got some maneuvers in. Kind of how like later on in the match, when Brock was finally eliminated by McIntyre, he made her look a little bit more human at that point. Where I think there should have been moments where all four women beat her down or something, and she looked a little more human, but then she kind of fought back or whatever. Just my opinion, but I get why they did it, and I don't dislike it. So,
yeah.
All right. So my take on it was I did not like it that much.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And this
surprising.
I'm the same way as y'all. I 100% get what they're trying to do. And guys, let me also say that I've always liked Shayna Baszler. I think she does a good job as a heel. The only thing I didn't like this though is, and maybe I need to go back and watch some of her other stuff, because to me it was like even when she didn't give much, but even when she gave to the other guys, it was like the selling wasn't there for me or something. And I've never thought that before. Like, I have no problem with making someone look like a monster, but that's like early 90s, late 80s where everything's a squash match. And that doesn't work for me. And I know y'all are going to think it's silly because I love the Brock thing. But Brock's performance was so much for the other guys. And he didn't win, so maybe that's why too. Because he made Drew McIntyre look like Brock Lesnar that day, so maybe that's why. But this one, I also would have been excited if they would have just did what they did, but put more with Asuka and Shayna, because I really like Asuka too, and she's a legit threat. But it was almost too easy. It was almost like they got to this match and they were running out of time, so they told them to hurry up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with that. I personally didn't like the match. I just like how they're building her up to kind of dethrone Becky. Building her up to be like, the Brock Lesnar of the women's division. But no, I agree totally with what you just said about that. with the whole Asuka deal. I think the match could have been way better and instead of being rushed.
I think what they've done to Asuka has been terrible since her loss to Charlotte. I mean, I'm happy they have the tag belts on her and stuff, and I like the Kabuki Warriors, don't get me wrong, but I think Asuka should be given a little more respect and should have put up a good fight. And I also think, to your point, Magic, Lesnar beat down a lot of people, right, and eliminated a lot of people fast. But when Keith Lee got in and when McIntyre got in and other guys, it took like 7 of them to beat Lesnar down. And then McIntyre surprised him with the kick and knocked him out the ring. So he looked human. Lesnar looked human and was down on the ground for a while. He sold that extremely well. Whereas Baszler sold absolutely. It was like Warrior versus Hogan WrestleMania 6 all over again. Watching guys no sell back and forth. But
and maybe also so Natty is Natty. I think Natty's established. You don't have to worry about her. But I think this match killed Ruby, Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan. Like, just squashed them. Like, those 3, no way in the world could be a main event threat at this point because of that, Like,
yeah.
When your only moment is when your cheeks are against the cage, I think you're right. So.
Well, I mean, I think no matter what, we would all enjoy that moment. But it's like the way Shayna just like, it was like a grown adult wrestling an 8-year-old, It was like, boom, boom, it's over. But these are 3 girls who are supposed to be in the main event of the Elimination Chamber, and you just took them and made them look like 3 jobbers out from 1989,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But let me also say that I'm still invested in Shayna. I'm not completely out on her yet because that is a weird, hard match, especially for someone who's like, this is basically your first main roster experience. And I still feel, I don't know, but I still feel they were told to rush that match. Like I said, I don't know. That's speculation or guessing. And maybe because they had a tough men's to follow, I don't know, but I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of that match.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's go to the Pick'em contest. All right, guys. Before the Elimination Chamber, the results were, in first place was yours truly with 32 points.
Boo.
In second place was Nick with 31, and in last place was David Gold at 30 points. After the Elimination Chamber and the picks were put in and the points were put in, let's go to an updated list. First place, Magic with 62 points. Second place was at 61 points. And third place with 55 points. And the current loser, David Gold. The margin was spread. It's getting bigger. I heard Gold is shaking. He doesn't know what to do. He's getting desperate. The question also now is, if we don't have a Mania, what are we going to do with this contest? A lot of stuff's up in the air right now.
I think it ends right now, Magic, is my opinion. I think we go ahead and crown a loser.
What do you think, Gold?
I disagree. I think if Mania doesn't go on, this competition is canceled altogether.
Well, to all our listeners out there, we're going to have to get back on you. Currently, as of this recording, Mania has not been canceled, but it's questionable for sure at this point.
Yeah, I've seen so much different stories online when it comes to WrestleMania on, if Vince doesn't postpone or cancel it, the mayor will or whatever. And I've seen so many different things, but I think it'll it'll be postponed. I don't think they can actually cancel it, but it'll be postponed in my opinion. But who knows?
Yeah, I would hope it's postponed at the worst. But like you said, who knows with this crazy thing right now?
I think Vince would. It's so hard to put yourself, I guess, in his shoes because of it's obviously a money situation in his mind. But I would rather answer to a postponement, postponing it than having to answer to 1,000+ people leaving that stadium, with a virus. So I think it's best if he postpones it.
Yeah. Well, as you heard,
it's
in
Vince.
First place, gold. First place.
Yeah. I'm just more interested in seeing what the loser, has to do. That's what I'm looking forward to. Because even I don't really know it yet. I don't think. If I do, I'd forget it.
I don't know what it is. That's for sure.
So I'm more looking forward to that. And as long as it's not me, I guess I'll be okay. I think what you're saying, Magic, just going by the standings, if I pick exactly the way David picks, he still loses, correct? So, David, I'll let you pick first when we go to announcing the WrestleMania pay-per-view, and I'll go behind you and pick.
Well, that would be terrible if you picked the same exact ones.
I can't lose that away, though, so, it's my winning strategy. I wouldn't do you like that.
So, listeners, we've had an amazing time. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take you to a On the Road with Buff interview. First, we're going to have any final thoughts, Magic? Any final words for the listeners?
Yes, guys, to all of y'all, thank y'all a million. I always say it. I always mean it. We appreciate each and every one of y'all for listening, who's able to take some time out of your day, whether it's the ride to work, whether it's the ride home from work, whether it's while you're playing some video games or what, maybe just sitting around the house, who knows, or, maybe it's at the gym. We appreciate whenever it is you're able to listen to this. Thank you to David Gold and Nick Francis. Both of those guys, I rib a lot, but they are two brothers for sure, and I appreciate them both, even though Gold's opinions are mostly completely out of whack. But, that's still okay. And to everybody, thank y'all as always, and y'all have a great week.
Any final words, Nick?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I appreciate both of you guys. I enjoy talking with you and chatting like we always do. And Nate, our wonderful producer, I appreciate everything he does for the show and everything. And I appreciate the listeners. And whether you're supporting us on our Facebook group, our YouTube channel, we actually got a store now, the Wrestling Asylum store, with a lot of merch, shirts, hats. I just appreciate you guys wherever you're listening from. Keep supporting us, sharing us. But I cannot let this episode go by. This is kind of our Buff Bagwell episode because we got his amazing interview coming up. I'm sitting here, guys, and I'm looking at a signed 8x10 of Buff. So what's your guys' opinion? Should we give one away? Give a little something back to the listeners. I got probably 3 or 4 signed 8x10s, and I kind of want to give one away. What's you guys' take on that? Let's see. What do y'all think? Just the usual method of a PM. PM a little something to us, and
how about
in order to.
Well, I was going to say, how about since it's the picture is Buff, how about they just PM one of us their favorite part of the Buff interview?
Hey, that is one. That's a good. I like that. So we're going to run with that. So guys, we're going to do a free giveaway. This is a spur of the moment because I'm sitting there looking at a signed Buff 8x10, and all you got to do is just like what Magic said is you can you can PM myself, David Gold, John Majewski, Nate Maxon, Mike Zecca, who's also one of our admin. You could PM any of us your favorite part of the Asylum and Buff Bagwell interview, your favorite, whatever your favorite part of that interview is that's coming up. Just shoot us a PM, let us hear it. You'll be entered into the free raffle for a signed 8x10. We'll put you in the randomizer. We'll probably either draw it live on the show next week or on our Facebook group page. So just a little something to give back to you guys for sticking with us throughout the whole show and listening to this amazing interview coming up. So there you go. Just like I said, send us a PM with your favorite part of the interview, and you will be entered. So again, but thank you guys. Can't thank you enough. And David, I'm gonna toss it back to you because I'm ready to hear your final thoughts. And again, I've enjoyed talking to you guys, so I appreciate it, and thank you, listeners.
And as always, I appreciate everyone who takes their time out and spends their time throughout the day with us. And my final words will be, I'm gold, I'm buff, I'm the stuff, and ho! We're here live in the Asylum Wrestling Podcast, and we have the legend with us. We're lucky enough to have the legend with us, Buff Bagwell. But we're going to ask some questions that the members, have asked, and get his take on a couple things. Nick and I are going to ask some questions, and we're just going to have a good time. We had a nice little toy convention this weekend with Buff, and how did that go for you, Buff? How'd you enjoy yourself?
Man, first of all, I want to thank you guys tremendously, because without you guys, I couldn't even have had near the time I had. We had a great time, and had some good dinners and laughs and fun, but the show itself was fantastic. I thought it turned out great. We really had a good turnout. We had Hacksaw with us yesterday, so that was a lot of fun, and to see him up and about, and but just really overall, I thought it was great, and I've never been to Parkersburg, so I thought it was cool. Then we were able to shoot over to Madison last night, and you guys got to come out, and be my NWO team, and we had a lot of fun with that. And I really enjoyed the weekend. I had a really good weekend, man.
What an amazing experience. Nick, myself, Chevy, and Josh Blevins all got to come out to the NWO music, and we got to for life the crowd, and the pop was amazing. We were with Buff, but I could feel it. Like, as soon as his music hit, my heart was in my throat, man. I couldn't believe, I'm like, there's 500 people, which is great, but it sounded like there was 10,000 people in that building. I'm not even gonna lie.
It shocked me.
And I know I was a little nervous, because I'm like, am I gonna fall down the ramp? Am I gonna trip going into the ring? Am I gonna roll and knock Buff over? Something like that. Is that shit gonna happen? No, but it went perfectly. He had us ready to go, and I can't tell you, a lot of wrestlers would not do that for us. That was freaking awesome, and we fucking appreciate it, man, for sure.
You're very welcome, and that's why I set everybody down and kind of, even with as much detail and preparation as I kind of went over with y'all, which wasn't deep or anything, but y'all saw when you got there really how deep it really can be. Yeah. I mean, it's deep. I mean, the littlest thing can happen. All of a sudden, Christian couldn't be found, and the chair's a little bit too far down, and so it's always, you got to be prepared for that, ABC plan, and that was one of the things that kept me, I think personally, as being one of the better wrestlers, is I didn't have just an A plan. I knew with the guy in the third row what kind of gum he was chewing, and I'm not kidding. I really did. I cared enough to know what everybody was doing, so if they messed up, I could adapt to it, because if you didn't, then you got blamed for it being a bad match anyway. So you guys did fantastic. Everything I said, y'all looked cool, and it was fun, and it was just fun to see you guys have fun.
I'm not even gonna lie. I asked Buff and honestly Chevy to repeat themselves at least 4 times, because I just wanted to make sure. And it wasn't that difficult, like you said, but it was more so like, I want to make sure that I don't embarrass anyone and I come out and have a good time, but at the same token, I do everything you've asked me to do.
Right. So David, what you're saying is I'm not the only one that forgets everything?
No. I'm like, are we going to the right or the left? Chevy's like, we're going to go to the left, you go to the right.
Oh boy, when I heard that, I went, uh-oh.
I'm like, great. And then, I mean, we went out, we got it, the fans were great. I took a chair from a fan. It was just an awesome experience. So, Nick, you have some questions from some of our members in the group, the Asylum, which Buff now knows about and owns some merch from. We have about 2,100 members, and I believe about 100 different guys and gals asked some questions, and Nick's going to kind of go through and ask you some of the questions and get some, divulge in some good stories.
Yeah, so we, Buff, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast and for an amazing weekend. I really can't thank you enough. It was an experience I never thought I would get to experience. Coming out to the ring, like David mentioned, and once that NWO music, being a childhood, I mean, that's just a childhood dream. Coming out with Buff Bagwell, NWO music, the crowd is freaking popping, going off the chain. Women, I think there was clothes thrown in the ring. I'm not 100% certain,
Some
but
panties,
I know it was a thong that hit me in the head.
When the shirt came off, baby, it was on.
It was on, and just like...
Not Nick and my shirt, though, only Buff's.
No,
we took ours off and they all left.
Exactly. That was a way to get the crowd away from Buff. But so yeah, Buff, what we've done is we asked our Facebook members, to just toss some questions out there, and there were so many, so I'm gonna run through some of my favorite questions, and some that you may have discussed with us already, but I know the listeners would love to hear your response and your take on a couple things. But so we're gonna dig into them now.
Sounds right.
And the first question we got is from one of our Asylum admin. His name is Daniel Areola, and it's a question about and I'm going to read it to you, Buff. So take as long as you need to answer, because I know you got plenty of stories. So
Yes.
The question was, did Buff's mom really call JR to say he wasn't going to make Raw back in 01?
That is a great question, and it's a question that's been asked. I've answered, God, 10,000 times, but at the same time, it's a question he may not have ever, been told or heard. But I got asked it so many times. To answer the question, it's no. And to rebuttal on why the answer is no is imagine two companies merging that were never going to merge, and you're in the WWF for the first only 2 weeks, and you decide to call your mother to get out of shows that weren't even flights for me. They were house shows, because the next Monday was Atlanta. So, I answered that question and told the world so many times that no, my mother didn't do it. I did it so many times that I started switching up my answer. And the answer I switched it to was, let's just say that my mom's lying to me and did it and don't want to tell me and get in trouble about it. And, oh no, she messed up and she did it and didn't know what she'd really done. And do you really fire Buff Bagwell over that? Or do you say, hey, Buff, tell your mother, can I cuss on this? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
tell your mother to quit fucking ringing our phone, So even if she did call, my question back to him is, the person asking is, why wouldn't they just say, tell your mother not to call and slap me on the top of the hand? I don't know. I've never been to WWF. So even if she did, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
But the answer is no. And I've covered even if she did and didn't tell me. Once again, you don't fire 12-year veteran, 6-time World Tag Team Champion for your mother calling in.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's a little crazy.
Oh, we're going to need Buff to call? Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't think I would get fired for that.
No, they tell me to call. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why is your mom calling?
So, yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from.
So, yeah, so that's really not true. And even, like I said, even if it is true, and I'm getting, my mom's a little shy to tell me that she messed up and didn't know, back when this was a little more fresh, you know, when I was answering this question, even if she was a little scared to tell me that she did it or something, who cares? Just tell me not to do it no more, and I wouldn't do it no more.
Exactly.
So that never, but nobody ever, for some reason, man, people really bought into the you know, the bad match Booker T fired and the mother calling in fired. That was the two big ones I always had to answer on all these podcasts, and so no, she didn't. I don't think she called to my degree, and I mean, I know she didn't, but I don't know because I'm not with her 24/7. But even if she did, who gives a shit? Next week's Atlanta. My question is, why would we wait a week and put me and Booker T in Atlanta in 7 days instead of forcing it and being in Tacoma, Washington for the first time in my entire life?
Yeah.
Booker T and Buff Bagwell would have been a lot better of a match, a lot better of a draw, and it would have made more sense, called the Invasion, to do it in Ted Turner's backyard. That's my rebuttals, is just make sense out of it. But no, she didn't, and even on Stone Cold's podcast, I told him, I said, you know, because him and JR are big friends, and I said, ask him, you know, and JR's response was he was just doing his job and he fired me in Atlanta, but he said, I like Mark, I was just doing my job. Now, that's where the heat comes in, because he don't like me. And there's a video out there, if you want to look it up, and it's called The Heat Seekers. There's a 3-disc thing that me and Lex Luger are on the cover of, and it's got like a half round table thing, and Jim Ross rips my ass apart in the video. I mean, rips it apart. So he didn't like me. Now, if you call me and say, "Hey, I don't like you," and but I'm calling just doing my job. Now Mark Bagwell's got no reason to be mad at Jim Ross. He don't like me, and he's calling to do his job. But he decided to say he likes Buff and likes Mark Bagwell, and he was just doing his job. Now, that's a fucking lie. So that's where all that started. But me and Jim, we met a couple months ago and just decided just to let that shit go. And it was not getting nowhere anyway. It was just kind of stupid. And that's what we did. So me and JR are on good terms now, and we're moving on.
Good deal. Good stuff, Buff. I know you could probably go on all day long talking about that.
All day.
But we're going to get to our next question, and maybe you can answer, and it not be, it's not WWE related, it's Buff Bagwell related. So maybe you won't get heated on this one. But what, you know, when you think of Buff Bagwell, the first thing I think of is you know, his attire, and to me, it's the top hats. So I love the Buff Bagwell top hat. I think we've discussed this earlier today about, you know, some of them that you had made for you and this and that. So we had a question that came in from Clayton Gurley of, Buff, how many top hats do you actually own?
As of right now, all I have is 2, but I've probably owned, I'd say 20 or 30. To do those top hats, it's about $1,000, $1,500 a piece. By the time they paint it, and you know, and airbrush my face on the top, and do all the curing and heated stuff you got to do when you airbrush. So there's a lot of money involved. So even some other one is my original that's in my kind of my mother's shrine, I'll call it. She's got a shrine with all of my major, first toy, first action figure, and all my action figure stuff. So I was able to keep one of everything. I'm even on a master lock. I'm on a master lock, and I got a Hot Wheels car, and several action figures, and Valentine's cards, and it's crazy. I mean, things that they did with us back then. But and I kept a pair of cool boots, one of my favorite pair of boots, and the original top hat and things like that. But but to answer the question, all I really have is two right now.
Okay, good deal. I know me and David got lucky enough to actually put Buff's top hat on today, take a couple pictures, so Buff, I appreciate that.
Now he's got Gold's head smell in his hat.
Yeah, unfortunately, Buff, I apologize about that, but
that's all right.
So I'm gonna jog your memory a little bit. Or you're gonna think back on this one, on one of your gimmicks.
Okay.
We had one of our members, Dan Gleason, and I thought this was a pretty good question, and I think David agreed when we was going over these questions. But he wanted to know, do you wish the WCW would have let you do the handsome stranger gimmick like you did in the GWF, and could you have made it big?
Wow, that's an excellent question, and that's an excellent question. And let me start off by saying that was WCW's idea at first, that nobody knows about, nobody's ever asked me about. So this is a great question. And how it worked, how it all turned out is, believe it or not, one of the biggest, baddest wrestlers in the world is who thought of the handsome stranger, and it was Bill Eadie. Bill Eadie from Demolition thought of the handsome stranger. And, of course, I was at the stage of do whatever you're told, and, I was just trying to make it in the business. So I wasn't real big on it, on the gimmick. I thought it was a little bit cheesy. I got a little flimsy mask on that can very easily be taken off. It ain't like it's, laced up, and, when all you gotta do is come up and just flip my mask off. But for some reason, it still got over, and years later, I had guys saying, man, that handsome stranger gimmick was really, I really enjoyed that, which I thought it was kind of cheesy, but it really was a pretty damn good gimmick. And but how it all broke down was that WCW was going to buy the handsome stranger gimmick from Bill Eadie, and I can't remember the price exactly, but it was like $50,000 or something like that. And Bill said no. So that's when Dusty, who hired me, Dusty Rhodes, that's when he said, well, we don't need that. We'll just call you by your regular name. And I said, no, Dusty, no, man. I said, that's just too hard. And see, I kind of go by Mark. Marcus was when I was in trouble. And when I was younger, it'd be like getting your name called William, but you just want people to call you Will. So when I got called Marcus, I was in trouble by my parents or something. So when I hear Mark or something in the airport, I stop, because that's somebody that really, really knows me. And wrestling fans or wrestling buddies call me Marcus. So the first win I ever had on TV, Rhubarb Jones was our announcer, and he said, the winner of the match is Mark Alexander Bagwell. And you can play it back and find it. It was against Rip Rogers. That was my first appearance on WCW. My first victory on WCW and first appearance. And when I heard it, it don't sound better. So I went straight to Dusty, and I said, Dusty, if you're going to do this, call me by my real name. It's Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And that does at least flow and sound better than Mark Alexander Bagwell. So that's where all that came from, and thank God I was able to kind of get over, the Marcus Alexander Bagwell thing by being a good wrestler, and Sting, coming out and saving me, and them adding me into the show, and it went from there, and so that's, but yes, that is true that they were going to try to make it work, but I'm not sure it was a WCW character. It was more of at that time, it was more of a WWF character.
Yeah.
That Handsome Stranger would have been. So to answer the question, it would have been hard to pull off. Maybe harder than Marcus Alexander Bagwell even. But it's hard to pull your own self, get your own self over. It's just hard.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a great question. But the Handsome Stranger was a lot of fun, and I hear more and more people that really did like that gimmick. They liked the character, so I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Not to interrupt your questions, but can I hear your best Dusty impersonation?
Let me tell you something, Marcus. It's them pretty teeth that I see when you smile. I just see a bunch of teeth, and it's so pretty. Your teeth are pretty, your hair is pretty, and all you gotta be is Marcus Alexander Bagwell, baby. And we're gonna make you a Marietta, Georgia champion.
That's a good one. Speaking of teeth, I think somebody wanted to know what kind of toothpaste he used, but we won't ask that question, Buff, and you don't have to answer it, but it was a question. Yeah, definitely. That might be one of the best Dusty impressions I've heard.
That's one of the best ones I've ever done. I don't know where it came from. I went deep right there.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Character on that.
I think Dusty would be proud of that one. That was
But
definitely
of all things, again, I'm not sure I mentioned this, but he's one that hired me 30 years ago. So it was that was a great man, and I loved him to death. And he gave me calls of my big white teeth and my pretty hair. He said, "Mr. Bagwell, we're gonna make you a superstar." I said, "Well, let's do it, Dusty." So we did our best, and I think we did pretty good.
I think y'all both done a fabulous job. So we'll go to our next question. It's from another admin of ours. He's actually a huge Buff Bagwell fan, and Buff gave him a shout out, and the video got sent to him earlier. He's the one that he actually got the hat, with your name on it and all that. You've seen the pictures and the hat and everything, and this is one of his questions. His name's Jeff Morlock, and it's going back to Judy. And your mom was a hot topic on a lot of these questions, but this was a real good one. And Jeff Morlock asked, is it true that Buff and Judy were supposed to be the original Vicious and Delicious, but Judy tore her rotator cuff while practicing the Blockbuster?
Oh, wow. that sounds, that is so good. That sounds real. That sounds like it really did happen, but that is so far from the truth. That's way, 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 way off. Exactly what happened was the Vicious and Delicious thing happened from NWO happened. Me and Scott Norton got put as a tag team one night, and it worked, and it was good. And we were at a restaurant in Chicago, Illinois. I'll never forget it. Chicago, Illinois. And this little boy came up and got an autograph, and when he walked up, he was just staring at both of us. And I said, "Hey, cool, man, you want us to sign that for you?" And he goes, "Vicious and Delicious." So from a child, about a 10-year-old child, he goes, "Vicious and Delicious." And I went, "What'd you say?" And I instantly wrote it down. And as soon as we got back home, I airbrushed every one of my ties Delicious, and Norton airbrushed everything he had Vicious, and we were Vicious and Delicious. But no, that's not true. She did, though, get hurt, and that's what ended her run with us, actually. I finally had her to where she was going to be on paper with us and have a contract, because she had worked her ass off. She had taken 1,000 diamond cutters, if you remember, by Chris Canyon. This is when Dallas was hurt, and Chris Canyon was wearing the Dallas Page wig, and he'd sneak out of sneak out somewhere and just diamond cut somebody. It was a good gimmick. It was a good little storyline. And my mom, at 60 years old, was taking a diamond cutter. It was crazy. But out of that, believe it or not, we were coming home on a flight once that she started getting over, and I went and sat with Eric in first class and said, Eric, dude, it's time we gotta start paying Mom, something. I mean, she's getting older. I said, I just gone to a toy convention where all the questions were supposed to be about things for me, Goldberg, and Nash, and that was the 3 people they sent. And every question I got was about my mom. When can we start making Judy Bagwell t-shirts? When can we start, doing something with Judy Bagwell? So I took that with Eric, and I said, Eric, we got to she's getting over, and let's do something with her. And she needs to get paid. They take care of her, but not a contract.
Yeah.
So I get her a guaranteed contract for $200,000 a year, and just verbal handshake, and on that flight, and we land in Atlanta, and she has her appendix burst. So she had to get rushed. She went straight from that flight that I got her $200,000 straight to the hospital and had her appendix removed and all that. And then when you do that on live TV, you're wrote out of the storyline, bro. It's over. So we had. I think the angle we did was me and Scotty beat my mom up. I think it was the angle we did. But so that's what happened. So we actually shot in the hospital where she was like, Marcus, I can't believe you beat me up, and Scotty, and we had her, and that was it. That was, I think, the last time we ever saw her on television.
Did she like the spotlight, or did she mind it at all? Or?
The first time she went on television was in Columbia, South Carolina, and this whole thing got brought up by Rick Steiner's idea. It was Rick Steiner's idea, and if you remember, there wasn't any girl matches or even girl wrestlers back then in our company, so it was pretty rare. And Scotty Steiner was really against the girl being in the ring thing, or even a woman being in the ring thing. So Scotty hated the idea, but me and Scotty were a great tag team, and we were together. So I go out in the same city I break my neck in, which is Columbia, South Carolina, and that was Mother's very first appearance, which was Rick Steiner's idea. So I go out as a heel, and I'm cutting my heel promo and dogging everybody out. Well, in the back before the show, a woman that has got more charisma in the world and cool as hell and all that, I could see she was starting to get really nervous. She was starting to lose it. She was starting to get like, I could see in her eyes, she was just getting scared. But come on, she's getting ready to go on the number one rated television show that was on TV at the time. And so I literally had to pull her to the side and say, listen, I said, you're gonna kick the fuck out. I said, this is the real deal. I said, be the mother that whipped my ass 1,000,000 times with a belt, swinging the belt both ways.
You with the metal part?
Yeah. I said, be that mother, go out and cut an interview on me. So basically, she was gonna go out and say, what are you doing talking to the crowd like this? I didn't raise you that way. That was how it was supposed to go, because she wasn't supposed to get in the ring or anything. Well, right up to going out, I can still see in her face that I hadn't pulled her out. I hadn't pulled her out yet. She was still scared. And so when she got out to the ring, in her eyes, I could see she was scared. And I had the microphone. And at this time, this statement was really, unfortunately, the statement I said was true. And so that's pissed her off, and she was on the apron, and when she got done with her first line, saying, whatever, what are you doing? This ain't the Marcus Bagwell I raised, and all that. I said, let me tell you something, little lady. I said, without me, I said, you couldn't even fucking eat. Because I was supporting the whole family of this thing. So the baby ended up landing a job after my parents supported us with the lumber business for 17 years of being rich. They go broke my senior year, which led me to wrestling and led us to this interview and led me saying, without me, you can't even eat. Well, she starts to get in the ring, and she wasn't supposed to. So I was like, yes, I got her.
Oh, you pissed her off.
I pissed her off.
Come to the metal part of the
She was
belt.
hoping she had that belt.
And she went straight to Scotty, and Scotty almost broke her arm. She hit Scotty or something. Scotty grabs her arm and just bends it backwards and nearly breaks her arm. So she comes over to me, and there's a couple pictures of it. We were like face to face, and then she ends up just out of nowhere. This wasn't even wasn't planned, wasn't talked about or anything. She grabs me by the ear and drags me, back to the back. And then when she throws me back in the back, she actually turns back to the crowd and throws her hands up like a champion.
Nice.
And the
That's
crowd
solid.
just erupts. And she was over from that point on. It was great. So
It'd have been funny to see her go get a Hogan belt and beat you with it, though.
oh yeah, beat the hell out of me with the Hogan belt. I love it.
So
That's
I have
awesome.
a question for myself. It's like a two-parter. One, what did you think of the 2001 incarnation of the NWO? Jeff Jarrett, I believe Sid was a part of it. And two, do you think had Bischoff been able to pull out a TV deal and keep WCW open, would it still be in existence today?
My answer's got to be yes, because I think WCW would still be in existence if Eric Bischoff would have still stayed in control and was able to pull it off. And him and Jason Harvey, what's his name, the Wonder Years guy, Jason Hervey or
Hervey the Third or something like that.
whatever. Maybe he was on Wonder Years. They were in a company. I can't remember. I think it was Malibu Productions or something like that. But anyway, that was what was told to us was, Eric was going to buy the company, and you could always tell when Eric was booking because he used WCW guys. Your Stings, your Lugers, your Bagwells, your Flairs, your Arn Andersons, your Bobby Eatons, your WCW guys. And when Russo was involved, it was your Jeff Jarrett's, your Shane Douglas's, it was more WWF style. And so you can always tell who was really booking. And but I really do think he could have pulled it out and saved and done something with it. It just, everybody just kept getting raises is what happened. And my answer to that has always been, I think if Eric could have came to us and said, look, let's just everybody make about $250,000, $300,000 a year. Let's everybody quit trying to raise the roof of getting raises all the time. And it's either that or we're going to run this in the ground. The problem is that never got asked to us, so everybody kept, did you hear Stevie Ray got a raise? Booker T got Stevie Ray, $750,000, and so, Scott Steiner hears that, he's knocking on Eric's door. Well, I see Scotty knocking on Eric's door, I go knock on Eric's door. And this is the nature of the business, it just kept raising the roof. So we just finally just ran it right in the ground, is what happened. And when Vince bought us, unfortunately, the guys that went over right away, which was me, Dallas, and Booker, the other 9 were just guys that were kind of, new to the business, and your Gendrax, your O'Haras, your, Stasiaks, and, guys that could work and were good in the business, but still, these guys were trying to get a job. Dallas, Buff, and Booker, pretty much, we're going to take somebody's job away. And just Vince was not going to have, and WCW look better than WWF no matter what, and that's what hurt us. Instead of it being a real war like it was, the Monday Night Wars, where Eric Bischoff was against Vince McMahon, it was Vince against nobody because he owned the company. And we thought it was going to keep WCW and do all that. We were told. But by his first move, obviously looked like it wasn't going to go that way. And it didn't. So the next week, 7 days later after Tacoma, Buff Bagwell gets fired, or released, is what they call it, in Atlanta, Georgia. So, to answer your question, I think Eric could have done it, and I think it would have been real good. He's the one that built it in the first place, so why couldn't he rebuild it?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes total sense. So we'll get back to our. That was very interesting. I agree too. Eric is brilliant when it comes to that. But so we'll get back to this question. Back to the listeners, to the Facebook members. David, that was a great question. I was getting interested. So this is going to go about the NWO, and we all know, and it's well deserved, but the NWO is going into the Hall of Fame, Buff. And one of the questions we got here is, with the NWO going into the Hall of Fame, should they include Buff Bagwell?
I think absolutely. I was the 6th or 7th member. I think I really got over in that. I went from a tag team of the year, Two Cold Scorpio World Tag Team Champions, to Stars and Stripes, 2-time World Tag Team Champions, to the American Males World Tag Team Champions, to the NWO. So here comes a 4-time World Tag Team Champion into the NWO. I was in shape, I felt good, I was young, I was healthy. I think I, really could have, done something, with that, and it just didn't go that way, things happen, and but at the same time, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to go into the Hall of Fame under that pretense, and I'm not being ugly for the DX going in, and I mean, God bless them, they're in the Hall of Fame, and I'm proud of them. But I'm much rather go in the Hall of Fame as Buff Bagwell instead of as a group.
Yeah.
That don't really, that just don't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense, but it just, to me, don't really count. It's not, you're not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
The NWO's in the Hall of Fame. So, no, I wouldn't really want to do it. But, yes, if you're going to put a group together and think if those other guys are able to be in the NWO Hall of Fame and they're going to put them in as the NWO, absolutely Buff Bagwell should be figured into that. I think the top 10 guys should be. And if I ain't the top 10 in NWO, I don't think I get too many arguments out there saying I wasn't the top 10 of those NWO guys.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of talent there, but still, I'm not sure they go in as Buff Bagwell than a group.
Yeah, I agree. I think Buff should be in there, but time will tell, I guess.
That's it.
Yep, time will tell on that. So we'll jog your memory a little bit, Buff, and if you can't answer this, just try to answer to the best of your knowledge. And it's funny because we was actually talking about this before we started recording, and then David went over his great driving record. And
+5, baby.
It was pretty impressive.
+5, baby.
But we got a member on the page. His name is David Alderman, and he said, my buddy, which I'm assuming is a cop. So sorry, Buff. I know you don't like to hear that.
That scares me every time I hear it.
He said my buddy said he pulled over Buff in Virginia years ago, Whitfield, Galax area. He He said he didn't ticket Buff for speeding, but he did get a few autographs. He said, we never seen the autographs, so we call the story bullshit. Buff, can you verify any of this?
I can't verify none of it, but I can tell you. Give me the name again. Phil who?
Well, he didn't list the name of the cop, but it was in.
Who's that?
It was in Virginia, in Withville, Withville, Virginia, Galax area.
Oh, you're saying a city's name?
Yeah, that's where he said he pulled you over at, and he said he didn't give you a ticket, but you got him a few autographs, and I guess he let you go on your way.
You know, I can tell you this, that happened to me a bunch of times, but if there's no, if the guy don't have if he don't have an 8x10 proving it, you know, then that'd be the question to ask, would be to ask the cop, would be the only way I can prove it, because I have done that a bunch of times, and it's got me out of a bunch of trouble.
Yeah.
And I really have. I keep 8x10s in every car I have. My wife's, mine, my mother's, my father's, any car I'm rolling in, I got it. Buff Bagwell 8x10s, and that just keeps it keeps you from getting mobbed at places. It gives them, the fans, get something out of it, and you're able to, you know, move on with your life, and you know, you can, hey, what's up, and the fan gets something out of it. And I just like the fans always to get something, you know, and so I can't. There's no way I can't. I don't remember it. That's too hard to pull out. But I can tell you this. I bet you there is, without exaggeration, there's 100. There's at least 100 people that have gone to their mailbox over the years and opened it up and had a Buff Bagwell 8x10 in their mailbox and went, well, I'll be damned. He did do it. He did it. You know, where I'd meet somebody at the airport or something and not have no pictures with me, and they'd give me a card to send them a picture with their kids' names on the back, and I did it every single time. There wasn't a time I did not follow through with that. So the truth would be to ask the cop if he's got a picture of me signing it to prove it for sure.
If I tried that and gave them, they'd laugh at me.
Oh,
even
definitely.
if I flashed them, wouldn't give a shit.
It wouldn't work for us, I don't think. I think we need to drive Buff
That's
around
why
a
we got
lot.
Buff 1 now, so we can get the Buff's level.
That's it. I love it.
So we'll go to the next question, Buff, and
This will be the last one, Nick.
okay, we'll wrap it up after this, but we'll end it on this note. And I don't know how familiar you are with some of the newer brand WWE and the new company AEW. Hopefully you're familiar with it. But,
Yeah, very familiar.
okay, well the question is, and you know, you've probably noticed they brought back some legends, Arn Anderson being one, Jake the Snake being one. And this was a question that was asked a couple of times. But if Buff Bagwell got the call from AEW, would you sign with AEW?
Oh, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And as a matter of fact, just the other night, after going through all the surgeries I had over the past 5 years with the hip replacement problem, I got staph in my hip, and then I had the 2 shoulder replacements. I finally have gotten back into good enough shape to take my shirt off and look good enough in the ring, and I can work good. I'm 100% now as far as health. I feel great. I look great right now. I think for where I came from, by 2 complete shoulder replacements to 5 hip surgeries on one hip, my left one, and then pull that out to being able to have a full-fledged match and just, you know, so absolutely, and I would definitely be all over that, and I'd really enjoy it. And you know, and like I said, Dusty Rhodes is who hired me, and supposedly Cody is, you know, a big wig up there and a big part of it. But I also got a lot of guys up there that don't like Buff. You know, I mean, you know, me and Jim, I told you, we're on good terms. At least that's what I think, but I don't know on his end. And you know, there's a couple guys up there I know that don't like me, and so you know, there's just no telling. It's one of those, you know, you said time will see kind of thing. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'd be all over it.
Cody, call Buff. Get it done.
Get it done, bro. Use your head, brother. Let's do it.
Or we need Vince to get you on a Legends deal so we can get some Mattels.
Yes.
Damn it.
Yeah, we need more
We
Buff
need an elite
figures.
Buff with a top hat, like multiple top hats in the package. Damn
I
it.
love it.
Damn it, Vince. Get on it.
A red one, a red top hat.
There you go.
Gotta have it. Well, alrighty, Buff. We appreciate all your time and your patience and going through all these stories and the amazing weekend we had. And we can't thank you enough for all you've done for us. And we hope to have you again for sure.
Well, dude, that's easy as pie. Anytime you guys want me, I'll be more than happy to do it with you guys. I love telling stories. I got a bunch of good ones. And the good thing about my stories are they are 100% true, always. I come from the hip, I always do. That's one of the reasons why I got some heat in this business, which I call heat jealousy. It's just in the world of pro wrestling, they happen to call it heat. Well, where I come from in Marietta, Georgia, they call it jealousy. So it's just whether or not I can, add to a company, and I think I can. I can add to a company, and there's a reason why Seth Rollins and Bobby Roode are doing the blockbuster. It's a good move, and there's several other guys I've seen do it, and I'd love to be part of a company again, and be part of a team. WCW was great, and so we'll hopefully get that call one day. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely, Buff. I appreciate it too. You've been more than amazing. Words can't even express, the joy you've given us this weekend, and I can definitely say the Asylum always welcomes you. We love you here in the Asylum. I'm speaking for everybody, going off of the questions and the comments with the pictures we posted this weekend. A lot of love for Buff out there, so don't ever once think that. We all love you, Buff, and can you end it with a little Buff is the stuff? Let them hear it. Let them hear it if you don't mind.
Well, all I can tell you is if AEW wants to get this, they can get I am Buff, I am the stuff, and the girls just can't get enough.
Have you ever been excited to photograph your figures only to be disappointed? Fuck, these pictures suck.
Don't worry, I got you, bro.
Call David Gold's Figure Photography.
Sexy.
Get the pictures you need of your figures. Stovetop.
He's on fire!
Off-centered on carpet.
Nice stuff, bro.
You name it, David does it.
Sexy.
PM David Gold to schedule a consultation today.